Welcome back on the program. We'll now talk technology this morning, which is the backbone of modern economies, driving innovation and transforming industries. In Nigeria, the tech ecosystem has grown rapidly, with the country emerging as one of the leading hubs in startups and digital transformation. With the advancement comes the need to ensure compliance with certain laws and regulations, growing the tech providers, also guiding them and ensuring that their workspace is indeed devoid of any challenges. But Nigeria is currently facing challenges including the lack of clear policies, fragmented legal frameworks, multiple regulators, and cybersecurity concerns, hindering innovation and investment confidence. Now, joining us for this conversation is telecommunication expert, executive chairman, Global Transactions Nigeria Limited, Rotimi George Taylor. Good morning, and thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning. Tell us more about regulating the telecommunication services in the country.
The telecom sector in the country is one that is growing, and they say is facing a lot of problems, but I think it's one of the most lucrative sectors of Nigeria. And I think all what they need to do is the telecoms themselves, they need to be more prudent, more organized, and work harder to satisfy Nigerians. A lot of things are not being done presently, which they are promising. And that's why we come in. When you make a promise, we expect you to fulfill it.
The price of data for most Nigerians have gone up exponentially in the past 1 to 2 months. But however, the quality still remains a bit shaky. What would you say about this situation and how maybe compliance comes into it? How can the government help us, to find a change?
Well, I will put the problem directly at the desk of the NCC.
Okay.
Because as a regulator, it's like the CBN opening a bank. When a CBN opens a bank, they are also in banking. How do they regulate other banks? They have come into the field. The NCC came up and went down to the state governors, and they said, look, the right of way that you are collecting, we want you to reduce it to 145 naira so that we can penetrate the villages and get internet access to rural areas. Some governors even offered them for free in their states, not knowing that the NCC now went back and got infracos. They now got the infracos to charge the MTN and all these people 650 naira. So that is different from what you were asking the states. And then I asked them at the last meeting I had with the NCC, where are the rural areas that you have penetrated? Even the ones that you are organizing for, because of your involvement of seeking help from the telecom providers to allow your infracos to come in, it's making it hard for you to regulate them.
You will tell us more about what your organization is doing in regulating these telecommunication services in the country. But what Nigerians are talking about at this time is we should have quality services. Now, you get to a particular area, there's no network. You pay for these services and you are not getting anything that is worth the money you are buying it for.
That is what I'm talking about, that you said we'll get to. Because if I go into the business with you, how do I regulate you when I need favors from you?
How do we remedy this situation?
The situation has gone very bad. The NCC needs to remain on the path of Nigerians. Leave the telecommunication companies alone. Let them deal with the states, deal with themselves on how to move telecoms forward, whereby any area that is not performing well, they will then be able to come in with the hard stick and say, look, MTN, your lines are not clear, and we need you to correct it.
Okay, speaking of, I know there was something that happened in Osun State about laying of masts and laying of cables illegally. I want you to speak to that.
Oh, that is clearly, there are two sections to that. There's the criminal aspect of that.
Oh, criminal.
Yes, criminal aspect, because you find out that companies like MTN, you expect a lot from them because it's an international company.
Was it
I don't want you to start calling names.
No, okay, don't let me call names.
The right of reply.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Big companies in telecoms, you expect them to obey the rules of the game. The NCC regulation says that the state is allowed to collect right of way. That means if you are going to lay cables within the state roads, the federal government collects for the federal roads. So how do you now come in and say that an infraco came to sell you the right of way for a state road without the consent of the state? It's like saying you bought a stolen car at 300 naira when you know the price is 600 naira. And then you're trying to justify it, go through the back door to try and get an illegal letter from the state to justify what you have done. So you find out that the state is in court with MTN, both for their articles in the newspaper and also in court with MTN.
So how does the infrastructure protection bill comes into all of this that you've just said?
First of all, I would like to thank President Bola Tinubu, Ahmed Tinubu, for setting up the critical infrastructure bill. I would also like to thank the National Assembly because I think it protects the equipment from various people. I've seen the purpose of the bill because you find out that some individuals, when a mast is built, they come in and say, no, we don't want a mast in our area. But this mast, the state has collected money. All the tests for the area has been done through Ministry of Works and Ministry of Environment, and it has been approved. And they've paid. So why would a community leader just wake up and say that you have to now disturb the mast from operating?
Do they also consider the health challenges with emissions?
Oh yes, before it is approved, that is where the state comes in. They look at the distance. Everything is being considered. There are so many things to do with a mast that you look at before. NESREA is there, and all these regulatory bodies are there. The NCC is supposed to do that as well. So you can't just come in and go and tamper with a mast. But when a mast has not paid for the land it's using, or has not paid for the aspect of being able to put up a mast in that location, you cannot call it a critical, because then you are using the critical national infrastructure bill to justify something that is illegal.
I mean, but won't they make the quality of data even better?
No. It's just like you want to build a house. You want to build a house, you must first of all go to the state government, no matter how beautiful the building is, and collect the approval. You pay for the approval. So if you don't pay for the approval, how do you now justify that, no, you can't come to my property and complain about it? You must give the drawings, they must approve it. So if those things are not doing, look at the mast that fell in Edo State and killed people.
And that brings to question the issue of maintenance.
Yes.
At this time. We have all these infrastructures in the country. How do we maintain them?
Well, you find out that, for example, one critical aspect I will talk about is the aviation light on top of masts. If the aviation light is not working, if an helicopter is flying at night, how does he know that there's a mast there? So when you talk of maintenance, it is very important, but that falls under the NCC as well. When you go to the NCC, they say they don't want the state to get involved. So we that regulate from the state, we expect the NCC and NESREA to go down to this mast and correct these things. There was one that was written about severally in the newspapers that there was a mast outside Oshobo that was making noise. The generator was disturbing the whole community. They even advocated that they should remove the mast. They would rather the mast not be there than they can't sleep at night. So, but we cannot do anything because one is a critical national asset. Two, we have to complain to NCC because they have paid. But in a situation where they do it illegally,
okay,
the critical national asset cannot protect illegal structure.
Let's get to a very germane issue at the moment, the tariff hike.
Yes.
Nigerians are complaining that they are paying more now for them to get their phone recharged, data services.
Okay, you said...
Are you not bothered about this development?
No. Let me answer that. I told you it's a lucrative business. You see, a lot of these people
at the expense of Nigerians.
No, a lot of these people are not being honest enough. Because, for example, the one I was talking about, if you go and pay an infraco because you want to dance to the tune of the NCC, you pay an infraco without the consent of the state, and you have to pay the state also, because the state will come back and say, what of my money? Because they are justified by the Land Use Act to collect money for the land that you are going on. So you find out that some of these expenditures are mistakes from the management of those telecommunication companies that run into billions of naira, and then their shareholders are not even aware that they are making the wrong decisions, and they want to now put this on Nigerians that, oh, look, we're not making money. So some of their decisions are wrong. But unless you know the nitty-gritty of the market, you won't know that the management of those companies are complicit in the mistake of saying that, oh, our company is not making enough money. The
situation sounds a bit confusing and filled with a bit of corrupt practices. What would you like to see done to solve some of these challenges?
The NCC.
The NCC.
The NCC needs to be a regulator. Stop putting your nose in the running of telecommunication companies by telling them to come and go for the infracos. The infraco, you will even find out, is a national security threat to me. Because why would you bring somebody, everybody wants to control, every region wants to control their telecoms. And Nigeria right now, you know, we are not, it's not about tribalism, but we are not all from the same tribe. Some people, for example, a Hausa man might not want a Yoruba man to know where all their telecommunications is. So when you give all the telco, all the infracos to a particular tribe, and those tribes now will now control, they now go under the guise, they'll call themselves Odua. You will think they are part of the Odua group, but they are not.
So at what point are we bringing in?
Those ones will now be the ones knowing where every cable in the southwest goes to. I think you should allow people, indigenous of those areas, if you are even going to do something like that, know where their cables are running. Not you bring people from another side to come and know all the secrets of all the cables on their own side.
So at what point are we bringing ethnicity into?
No, I'm not bringing in ethnicity.
Okay.
What I'm just saying is that for something as sensitive, for you to call it a critical national infrastructure, I think each sector needs to have its own within it. That's why you have states. You don't normally bring a Hausa man to come and run a Lagos state except if he's in a military government. So if you are talking of the cables for the southwest, I think the southwest has very capable hands to run their own cables and know where their cables are. The southeast has capable hands, not to put everything. If you look at some of the infracos, even have 10 million shares. And then you are giving them contracts of about 4-5 billion. Some of them, you look at the lifespan of their contract and what you are doing. The NCC needs to regulate, stick with regulation, because that's why when you put people that don't know what they are doing, you find out that it's a lot of problems. It makes it more expensive for Nigerians, for data and things like that, because they can't regulate.
So your role in Osun State,
yes.
What are those things you have brought on board to ensure proper regulation in that particular state?
What we are saying is that stop digging illegally. First of all, you dig the road, the state government has made a road, you dig on it, you don't cover it back properly. When the rain comes, it leaves a pothole.
Who are the you that are digging the...
You said I shouldn't mention this. but you find out that...
Telecommunications
Yes, the telecommunication companies. And they dig roads, they don't even tell anybody now. Illegally. They don't want to pay the state governments. And the states have staffs to pay. But when it comes to owing the federal government, the NCC will come in on every little thing and collect their own money. So you find out that the NCC, please, they need
You've been putting the bulk on the NCC.
To me, it's the NCC. Because I know the inside of the business.
What reviews would you like?
Why would you go to a state government and tell them, give us right of way at 145 naira? Then you now sell the same through an infraco for 650. How much have you pocketed? That's per meter. You know how much that is? Okay. That runs into several billions.
Hopefully the NCC will come.
So if the NCC is to remove that infraco difference of almost 400 naira, will data not be cheaper?
We would like to hear from the NCC too on this particular development. We'll do a follow-up story on these. But how do you tax Nigerians to hold these telecommunications accountable to good services?
The Council of State needs to come together and sit down and protect the states so that they can hold these people accountable and free themselves from all these lies of, oh, we are moving the internet into the villages. Which village? We've asked them, since you've been asking for, which village have you moved it to? And make sure they move it to the villages, provide better services for the state.
Time will not permit us to continue just on the program this morning, but we hope to also hear from the NCC on this particular development. And what Nigerians are yearning for is to have good services,
affordable,
from these telecommunication services.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Rotimi George Taylor, telecommunication expert. Thank you so much for joining us on the program this morning.
For your insights. Thank you.
All right, we'll go on a break now. I'll be back with more interesting stories on the program. Do not go anywhere.